we're out of here by 15th August, and we've got to sort it all out within 6 weeks. And it's in that context of tremendous hurry that nobody actually gave any thought to the human consequence of partition. And this is a thesis which has a certain amount of credibility. In fact, many academics have espoused this thesis, which I would describe as the muddle thesis. There was just so much chaos that nobody knew what was going on. But in my recent work, what I've discovered was that in fact people did give thought to the possibility of migration and actually considered that it was most unlikely to happen. In fact, when the borders were drawn, which divided the two parts of what had been the British province of undivided Bengal into West Bengal, which was India, and East Bengal, which was Pakistan, the people who actually most closely influenced the shape of the border calculated where the border should go on the basis of the precise populations that existed in both parts of the province at that time. What do I mean by this? What I'm trying to show is that the drawing of the Bengal border was hugely influenced by certain members of the Bengal Congress and the Bengal Hindu Mahasabha, and that when they drew the borders, they actually sit down and they look at a map of Bengal. I can show you this map that they had looked at. Now you can see the Congress, this is the Congress scheme and the Congress plan. The areas which are white are Hindu majority areas. The areas which are black are Muslim majority areas. It's quite interesting that they should have used those colors to draw the map. The line that the Congress, and you can't see very clearly, is that the dark line that you can see, which actually excludes significant Hindu majority areas from the putative state of West Bengal that they are trying to create. Okay? Now,
if you press F5, I think it will be bigger.
F5? Is it too small?
And then true.
Can you see? Yeah? Okay. Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This is again another map that was made by a dissident faction of the Congress Party, which is the faction that actually came into power after partition. So it's quite interesting. And you can see from their line, which is the thick line going down, really down to the south, drawing a line at Kulna. The dotted area is the territory they wanted to include. They didn't want the whole of North Bengal for India because it contained too many Muslims. Okay? And here you can see, this is the very interesting map that I discovered. It's very difficult to convey the information that is contained on this map. It's something I found in the papers of Rajendra Prasad, who was the president of the Indian National Congress at the time. The actual map that I tried to draw a copy for you is about maybe 8 times the size of this table. And on that map, which was drawn by hand, they had mapped Khana by Khana the percentages of Hindus and Muslims in the whole of Bengal. Now this was no mean task, because, do you know what Khana is? Yeah. It's the criminal district, the area which is under the jurisdiction of one police officer. Yeah? So it's the smallest unit of administration that there is in the Indian subcontinent. Now, to get the Khana population figures was very difficult because these were not published anywhere. But the Muslim League government was in charge, and when the Congress party people asked them for the figures, they refused to release the figures. So the Congress leadership went to a geographer, the head of the geography department of Calcutta University, a gentleman called S.P. Chatterjee, whom I hasten to add to no relation of mine. They got the figures from him, and he plotted figures, the Khana by Khana, the actual makeup of every single individual unit of Bengali, if you like, local administration. And on that basis, they carve out very, very precisely where the border should run. Yeah? Now, it's quite interesting that when they decide which Thanas they want to include in West Bengal, like India, and which Thanas they want to send away to Pakistan, they arrived at a figure, and that was they wanted no Thana which had less than 55% Hindus. 55% was the crucial majoritarian level of comfort that as I've described it. And in West Bengal as a whole, they wanted to create a state that had a Hindu majority of at least 75% overall. And they wanted 90% of the Thanas to have Hindu majorities. So this is what I call a very careful coordination of the majoritarian principle. And you see it very much at work. Now we talk very much loosely about majoritarianism, particularly in Indian politics. But I think here you can see how in a very considered and careful way, the leadership of the Indian National Congress decide what level of a majority of Hindus they want inside India to feel safe in terms of running a country. Now what I'm arguing in the context of migration, this is important because all of this calculation was based on the assumption that everyone was going to stay in their Thana. You wouldn't make this kind of line, you wouldn't go through this kind of process if you thought the next day, people will be moving in all directions and all your calculations will come to naught. Nobody actually allowed for the possibility. Indeed, they planned very much on the possibility, on the likelihood that nobody would move. And then you have the mass migrations. So what I'm arguing is that the mass migrations go against the rationality and the assumptions and the planning of the leaderships that were in charge of the processes of partition at that time. Okay. Now, as we all know, this proved to be an error of quite catastrophic proportions. Whatever the national leaders thought, national identity formation had been proceeding in both parts of Bengal quite actively for some time, and the creation of two nation states made a lot of people feel that they had found themselves in the wrong nation after the line had been drawn. Now some of you may know, I'm just going to show you the Radcliffe line. That's the Radcliffe line, which divided the two states of West Bengal, and the state of West Bengal into two parts. The state of Bengal into two parts. Now, Radcliffe's line, interestingly, created two states in which the size of the minority, the proportion of the minority was roughly equal on both sides. So in West Bengal, in August 1947, on the day when the line was publicized, the proportion of Muslims in the population was about 30%. Likewise, in East Bengal,